Hey guys, welcome to Raw Customs. I'm your host, Patrick Rapolo, and on this episode, I'm going to be showing you how to make a custom shield. Now this particular shield I actually designed to go with the Captain America costume that I'm working on. However, you can use the techniques in this video to design and build your shield for whatever project that you're working on. Now the main reason I made this video is to give you guys some tips, some tricks, and some techniques to help you out on your prop builds, such as using a Dremel with a depth guide to allow you to cut channels into the foam to make small protrusions or holes to make things like a rivet effect, and using your cutouts as guides to keep your lines straight, as well as using a razor to make score lines and a heat gun to bring them out and show that detail in your work. And as you can see, using all those different techniques on one project gives you a nice looking prop that you can use for cosplay, for videos, or whatever it is you're going to use your project for. So what are you going to need for this build? Well, that just depends on you. This is meant to be a custom design for you to actually design your own shield and make it the way you want. However, for shields, I do recommend using a thicker foam, and I actually use these square floor mats. You can pick them up usually at Home Depot, Lowe's. They generally run about $10 to $20 and they come in a pack of 4. I actually use 2 of them on this shield build. Now one idea for the straps is to use a dog collar. One advantage to using these is that they're adjustable, so you can adjust it for the size of your arm or for a second person that wants to use the shield. And for your tools, I would recommend what I consider the basics if you're going to be foam smithing. That would be a heat gun, some razor knives, as well as a rotary tool. Guys, if you're going to get into prop building, I recommend this be one of your first major purchases. And with this, I do recommend picking up a depth guide if it doesn't come in the kit you buy. This comes in handy for several things. Alright guys, let's get to the video and see how to put this thing together. I started out by finding and marking the center point of the foam mat, top and bottom. Next, I took some paper and lined it up on one side of my mark and taped them together to make a pattern. Then I removed the paper from the foam, then sketched out the shape for the outside of the shield. Once I was happy with my design, I cut out the shape using a razor knife. With my shape cut out, it was laid back in place on the foam and the inside edge lined up with the center points. With the template centered, I used tape to hold everything in place. Then used a Sharpie to trace the outside edge. Next, I removed the tape on the outside edge and flipped the pattern over to the other side of the foam. Then tape the edge down again and trace the outside edge to give me the base shape of my shield. Next, I marked a line down the center to help me lay out all my detail lines. To add some details, I'm going to use my rotary tool with a metal tooth bit and a depth guide. Using the depth guide allows you to keep an even depth while cutting through the foam, and you can press it against a fence to keep your lines straight. Before cutting into your main project, I highly recommend cutting into some scrap foam to practice and to see how the cut's going to look. Here's a little trick to help you line up a circle. Line up a ruler on your center point around half the width of your circle. In this case, that's around 4 inches. So I'm lining up the 2-inch mark on the center point. Then I slide the tape until one side touches the 0 and the other side touches the 4. Then while holding the circle in position, I remove the ruler. While holding pressure on the tape roll, I press my depth guide against the outside wall. Then make a plunge cut. Then I start cutting the line using my tape as a fence to cut my circle into the foam. Once my circle is cut, I use a razor knife to cut the outside edges of the shield. I'm being specific on where I start and end each cut because the plan is to use the cutouts as a fence on the next step. To line up the fences, I measured in a 1/2 inch from the edge and made reference marks around the entire shield. Next, I lined up the pieces that I cut off with the reference marks and put straight pins through both pieces to hold the pieces in place. This is actually the first time I've ever used pins to do this, and it turned out working pretty well. With the scrap pieces held in place by the pins, I used my rotary tool to cut a line all the way around the shield. I'm using the scrap pieces as a guide. It's important to note that I'm using my left hand to hold the fence in place as I make the cut, and I'm putting very little pressure against the fence. I definitely recommend making practice cuts on some scrap foam before you start cutting on your main project. Once the cut was finished, I removed the fence pieces. To make small detail lines, you can use a sharp razor and make shallow cuts into the foam. Then use a heat gun to heat the area. This will shrink the foam and open up the lines. I used a ruler to help make the detail lines on my shield. I lined the ruler up and then used it for a guide to allow me to cut nice straight lines. I'm setting the plastic part of the razor on top of the ruler. This allows me to keep the same depth on each cut. Then I keep the blade pushed against the edge of the ruler as I make the cut to keep my line straight. On my pattern, I've measured out and made some marks around the outside edge. Then use a hole punch on each mark. Next, I line the pattern up and transfer the marks to the shield. On the rotary tool, I've changed the bit to a grinding stone with a rounded tip. I'm going to make straight down plunge cuts to make small circles. The depth guide is adjustable, so this makes it easy to set the depth of the hole. I definitely recommend practicing this and trying out different bits to see what different looks you can get. Once I had my rotary tool set up, I made plunge cuts on each one of my marks. To give the shield just a little more shape, I used a rotary tool with a grinding stone and beveled the top edge all the way around. I made the bevel around 1/4 the thickness of the foam. And here's where the magic happens. Use a heat gun to heat the entire surface of the shield to reveal all those pretty detail lines that you've made. Once you've thoroughly heated the front side, flip the shield over and heat the back side as well. At this point we're heating it so we can form it as well. You may need to heat and flip it a few times. Once you have the shield heated, you'll want to bow it along its length. On the template, I've marked a line about 1.5 inches in from the outside edge, then used a razor to cut it out. Then the shape was transferred to a second floor mat and cut out. For straps, I'm using some large dog collars. I used some side cutters to cut the leash loop and then removed it. Next, I laid the straps on the back piece of the shield, then laid my arm across them to figure out placement. Then I marked off the areas for the belts and cut out a thin rectangle at the top and bottom of each marked area for the strap. I made the holes just big enough to push the buckles through. With the holes cut, I pushed the belts through, making sure to have both buckles as well as the adjustment for the strap on the outside. Next, I heated it on both sides and then bowed it along its length. Another handy tip is to pick up some double-sided Velcro. This is generally used for cable management on electronics like TVs and computers. In this case, I'm going to wrap it around the shield and use it to set and hold my bow. Next, I'll set the back piece of the shield in place, mark center points, and trace around the edge, and make marks through the holes for the straps. Once everything's marked, I'll remove my back piece and mark the area where the strap will set. I'm going to mark an area a little bit larger than the strap. Now it's time to apply glue to the back side of the shield inside my marked areas by leaving the area for the straps dry. On the back piece of the shield, I'll apply glue to the front surface area, making sure to leave the area around the straps dry. Once the glue is set, I glued the back piece in place, starting in the center at my center points. Then raise the front section of the shield up to the back piece, one side at a time, making sure to match the bow. Then pressing the two pieces firmly together. I went ahead and cut out a star on my laser cutter just to speed things up a little. Then I centered it in the circle and traced out the outside edges. Next, I applied glue to the marked area on the shield and to the back of the star. Once the glue was set, the star was lined up and pressed in place. To prep foam for paint, you need to seal it. I recommend using PLASTI dip. I like to use 2 light coats followed by 2 heavy coats. Once your PLASTI dip's dry, you can apply your base coat. I recommend 2 light coats followed by 1 to 2 heavy coats. Once your base coat's fully dry, you can tape it off for additional colors. To add the details, I like to use an airbrush, but this isn't necessary. You can use paint brushes, sponge brushes, or whatever works for you. To finish the paint job off, I like to use 2 coats of clear. This ties all the colors together and protects the airbrush paint. Well, alright guys, there you go, a custom shield. Of course, I went the Captain America theme for mine because it's going with a costume that I'm working on. However, yours can be whatever you would like, and I would love to see what you guys come up with. So if you build one, please send me some photos over to my Instagram or my Facebook page. I love seeing what you guys build and what you come up with. So I'll give you a little bit tighter look on the one I made. course, I did use the laser cutter to cut the star just for the sake of time, since I have so many other projects I'm working on. So guys, speaking of the other projects, one of those is another set of armor that I've started working on so far. This is going to be sci-fi armor. As you can see, I've got quite a little bit of design work going in there, going for that sci-fi look. And with the blue that I'm painting on this particular set, I'm actually going to do a little VFX and make those areas glow, as you can see. So that turns out looking pretty cool if you ask me. So that's one of the things I'm working on to go along with the other armors that I'm working on. So far I've got the tactical armor, which I'm almost done with. I have the sci-fi armor I've started on, as well as a set of hero armor that I've started on. And this is the first piece of that. This is actually shin armor. And I've got it where it opens up in the back here, so you can wrap it around your leg and put it over a boot or something like that. But that's the first piece of that. Now all this I'm trying to design where it can be mixed match. So if you want to go with say a tactical chest armor and a sci-fi gauntlet and hero leg armor, you know, to fit the costume that you're working on. So that's my idea, is so we can mix match and build different costumes using the same pieces. And one more quick thing I'm working on, guys, is I'm redoing the laser visor here, guys. Now this isn't finished, it's just in base paint, but I've redone this, made it fit better together, put some lines in it. But one of the main things I'm doing is trying to make it where you can make changes as well to it, giving you a few extra pieces, basically like in the sides here, so you can make a few different styles to go in the side pieces. I've got a second one here with a different set of pieces. So the idea is to give you something a little bit modular that you can, you know, take the pieces and kind of come up with your own side area to make the piece just a little bit more yours. And for you guys who don't know, I'm actually working on the Iron Man costume as well, redesigning it. And my goal is to have that done by the end of the year. We'll see what happens though. All right guys, that's it for this video. God bless you. I'll see you on the next one.